All right. So I guess now you understand what the plan was.
Absolutely. At Colts Law, we talk Indianapolis Colts football.
We're going to stick to what we know, fundamentals and technique, 1% better every day.
What's going on, Colts Nation? I'm Lawrence Owen. With me, as usual, is my boy, Colts Loyalist. And today we have a very special guest preparing for this Thursday night football game against the New York Jets. He was kind enough to let me join his show last night on a live stream and agreed to come on here and talk a little bit about his New York football Jets. GreenBean, thanks for joining, man.
Yeah, right on. I'm honored to be here. I can't think highly enough about you. I love your content, and it's really a great opportunity to be here. I'm looking forward to chatting with you fellas.
Awesome. Thank you so much. For those of you that don't know anything about our guest today, why don't you give a few moments, tell them a little bit about yourself and where they can find you?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I have a YouTube page, GreenBean Jets Fan on YouTube, and I talk about predominantly the Jets. I also do a weekly show for Jet Nation, jetnation.com, the largest independent fan site in the entire NFL. They're going on 20 years, 1 million hits a month, all that kind of stuff. So I do a weekly show for them as well. And on their YouTube page, I do the weekly live streams for the game. So I'll be doing that again this Thursday at Jet Nation's YouTube page. But interestingly, guys, I'm more interested, if I could say that, in my other stuff, which is I left the corporate world. I sold all of my possessions, my house, everything I owned. We bought an RV, and I decided to try to take my kids on every roller coaster in the country. And we're about 250 in on the 750 we got to hit. We're in Virginia now. We're heading to Florida next. And that is being documented at Full-Time Coaster Tour as well, if anybody wants to peek in and see what that's like. So I'm talking Jets while traveling this great country of ours.
That is a dream of mine. I would love to be able to retire after my kids are out of my house, buy one of those, and just travel and go from game to game. You know what I mean? During the season, that would be so awesome to be able to actually tailgate even at road games.
Right
that
on.
would be so fun. So guys, make sure you go give him a follow on his Instagrams and Twitters and go check him out on YouTube because he's got some really, really good stuff. But we're here to talk about Jets Colts Thursday night football. And we made a huge point yesterday, Loyalist and I, when we did our live stream, about how the Colts have yet to beat a team with more than 2 wins. And the Jets, on the other hand, have already beaten 2 teams with 5 wins. Now, with that being said, what were your thoughts coming into the season? How did you feel about your team walking into the NFL 2021 season?
Well, how interesting is that, right? That it seems like we're the giant killers right now. And that I think it might have a little something to do, at least a touch, of people maybe overlooking us. Like, I think that's very real in this league, and that happens too. But yeah, the only wins we have 2 wins, and they are against teams that are pretty good. And we lose to everybody else. So, but walking into this season, the Jets have a rookie head coach, rookie offensive coordinator, rookie quarterback coach, rookie defensive coordinator, rookie quarterback. We're starting 7 other rookies on the team. We have more rookies starting than any other team in the NFL. So even though I think our general manager, Joe Douglas, has done a good job kind of, cleaning out the roster and the organization and, deciding to build through the draft, which is very new for us. We're usually big free agent spenders, So he's kind of put the brakes on that and brought in some really high caliber talent from the draft. And we're all excited about that. At the same time, it's been a rocky road for all of those new pieces, people who haven't been here before, trying to do it at the same time. It's been difficult. So I think a little bit rockier than I expected until last week. We kind of got to see some things against the Bengals, but I think we're pretty much right around where I thought we'd be. Really sloppy football, flashes of greatness, not being able to close out games, things like that. But it looks like we might be starting to put it together a little bit, which would be nice. But I think we're right about where I thought, 5 wins, 6 wins kind of a thing this year.
Okay. Well, to be fair, the Colts fans know what it's like to go through that situation where, there was a complete clean house, 2012, where we went new GM, new head coach, new rookie quarterback, new everything, So we were lucky enough to have some very solid veterans on our team as well to help us move forward. And we started off successful with all of that. You're in a different situation in that situation. But Loyalist, do you have anything you want to ask GreenBean about?
Yeah, he was sitting there talking about, his outlook on the year and stuff. And he said he found some things in the Bengals game. And there was something you found I've never seen it, never heard of it. And that's a Mike White. So I was just sort of curious of, what your feeling or your thought was after last week's Mike White sighting, and what do you think, this team can see or get out of this young man as the season goes?
Yeah, right. That is funny. I like how you put that. What is a Mike White, and where did we find this thing? So Mike White is really an unheralded guy. The Jets chose to keep him as the number 2 quarterback over like a vet, like somebody who's been, a Boyer, a McCown, like those types of guys. And, a lot of Jets fans, I'd say most, were very unhappy about that. They wanted some experience for the number 2 overall pick, Zach Wilson, that we brought in this year. But so Mike White came in, and honestly, 99.9% of Jets fans had zero expectations for this guy. We just hoped that he could be competent. And he came out, and from the first drive, guys, he looked just confident, cool, collected back there. So I think that surprised a lot of people. He ended up throwing for 405 yards, 3 touchdowns, two interceptions. But it wasn't a game, man. It was truly the most fun that we've had this year. That said, the Bengals couldn't game plan for him. Nobody knew what to expect. So I think you guys have a little bit more of an advantage with being able to see what he looks like for an entire game. He wasn't exactly throwing bombs. Let me say that. He utilized his checkdowns, a lot of screens, quick slants, things like that. I think his average pass was just about 4 yards, but there was a lot of yards after the catch. But so I think the story is yet to be written, Loyalist. It's really hard to say, but I can say that the team looks to have really rallied behind him, more so than I would have expected. They seem to really love this guy, and the Jets fans are pretty excited after that game to go into this game and see what he really looks like, because the truth is we don't know.
I'm going to stay on the Mike White subject right now just for a moment. So I don't know if you've heard, you probably have, that Mike White now is officially in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I saw that.
2 games. He's played 2 games in his entire career, and he's in the Hall of Fame. His jersey is hanging there due to his performance in Sunday's game against the Bengals. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, that's funny, man. I just saw that this morning, and the tweets, everybody's going back and forth, all this sort of stuff. But it's interesting. I did a live stream from the Hall of Fame right before the induction ceremony. I got to hang out in there. They gave me a whole tour. And what I can tell you is, if anybody's been there, they know what I'm talking about. The Hall of Fame does a good job of displaying lots and lots of big game moments. They'll have just that wide receiver that caught 3 touchdowns in the game, that field goal kicker who was 5 for 5. So they do that a lot. Each year, there's always special moments that kind of come out of left field or what have you, and they display that stuff. So Mike White, he's the first, I think he's got the most yards out of anybody in their first start, and lots of little tiny stats about that he collected. So I think, while not making too much of it, good for you, man. I mean, let's say this guy just slinks back to being a number 2 quarterback, and this was his one moment in the sun. Isn't it cool that that our moment in the sun, we get to make it to the Hall of Fame for a few minutes. I think we'd all enjoy that. So I'm really happy for him. And again, I'm not making too much, but good for you, Mike White.
Yeah.
Awesome.
If you're going to have your 15 minutes of fame, there's no better city than New York City to have it.
Right on. Yeah. And, they were chanting, the crowd at the end of the game were chanting his name, Mike White, Mike White. And he, in his post-game presser, they asked him if he heard that. And he said, yeah, he had to do like a double take. He said, oh my God, they're chanting my name. Like, that's awesome. So again, if he never does anything, let's say he's just a serviceable backup. In 2 weeks, Zach Wilson comes back and he just, slides back into his supportive role. His moment, he got the Jets fans who are fickle to chant his name. He threw for 400 yards and his jersey's hanging in the Hall of Fame. We should all be so lucky, loyalists. You know what I mean?
There was a scary moment in that game against the Bengals, though, as I watched it. There was a point where he got hit pretty bad, and he laid on that ground, just laying there holding his head, and had to come out of the game for about 5 plays or so when your backup goes in. And he did okay. Your backup's backup, I should say.
Yeah.
And what is there any kind of repercussions from that quick injury that he had going into this game against the Colts?
Yeah, it's funny. In his post-game presser, he said, I probably laid on the ground a little too long, and then I realized, oh, no, I got to go through the concussion protocol and all that. It wasn't his head, but let me just say this. I was scared. Like you said, that was a scary moment. I'm like, here we go. We finally get a guy who can come in and play, and he gets taken out in less than one game. But it wasn't his head, even though it looked like that. It was actually his neck. So he said his neck is still sore, but it's not like a spinal thing. It was more muscular. He seems to be fine. And we all got spooked for a second there. But like you said, he came back in after about 5 plays. And his backup would have had a touchdown pass. But my favorite Jets receiver, Denzel Mims, who's had a hard time getting on the field, dropped it. The guy doesn't drop anything, and he drops his first touchdown opportunity. So his backup, Mike White's backup, Josh Johnson, would have had a touchdown too. So that's all you can ask for. These guys did pretty well while our main starter is injured.
Loyalist?
Yeah, I just a little bit more with the Mims. What have you guys seen from? Because I remember coming out of the draft, he was one of the highly talked about receivers and stuff, and like you said, he just doesn't seem to be getting enough playing time. And I guess, what do you attribute that to?
Well, number one, I'm with you. He was one of my favorite receivers coming out in that draft. And the fact that he was sliding and we had the opportunity to get him in particular, there was a few guys that I really liked. Laviska Shenault was another one. Just guys that I was like, oh, I'd love to get them. He was one of them, and he was sliding. And I couldn't believe that finally for us, we are the team that gets that guy, the DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, Michael Thomas, that awesome guy that slides a little bit. So we were really excited, and he did have a decent rookie year. He was injured the first half and came in and really showed his talent. This year in training camp, he got food poisoning. So he ate a piece of bad salmon, and they said he lost like 20 pounds. So he had a hard time coming back from that. And the truth is, he's not the typical build for a wide receiver in this Shanahan style offense. So he's also had a hard time kind of, convincing them that he's ready and that he's a guy that you want on the field instead of maybe, Keelan Cole, right? So it's Mims kind of versus Keelan Cole here. So, but Jets fans, myself included, we are huge supporters of Mims. We love him. In my opinion, he's the best receiver on our team, and he will show that at some point. But yeah, he's just kind of had that difficult get back from the food poisoning. And because once that happened, other guys kind of earned their spot on the roster. So him convincing the staff that with his build, that he should be on the field over some of the other guys. I think that's where the difficulty's been. But we had an injury to Corey Davis, which is why he started, and he had a good game. He did nothing spectacular, but he had a really good game. Mims is known as a blocker too. So a very, very effective blocker. So that's also, he did quite a bit of that. And, anyway, so I think it was a good game for him. it would have been really good if he caught that damn touchdown and hit him right here, like hit him in his shoulder pad, kind of a thing. And the entirety of Jet Nation was like, oh, like there it was, But I think as the season goes on, I think that he'll probably eke out more playing time, and he'll earn it. He'll earn that position, in my opinion.
Walking into this game tomorrow at 8:00, I'm curious. As a fan, as someone who knows their team very, very well and has a little bit of outside information about the Indianapolis Colts, what do you think is a strength of the Jets that they would be able to impose against the Indianapolis Colts tomorrow?
Well, interestingly, it happens to be one of your strengths that we're going against, but our defensive line, we've had a lot of injuries. Our premier pass rusher went out with an Achilles tear in the preseason. His backup, Vinny Curry, he went out for the whole season with a rare blood clot disorder that the Jets medical staff found. Then another vet, Ronald Blair, who's kind of a blue-collar workhorse type of guy, he went out too. Now the guys that replaced them are out. So like we're really kind of struggling to keep the continuity with these players in the games for any length of time. But that said, that is still the strength of our team and their ability to first stop the run. We have some of the best run stoppers in the entire NFL. I think Foley Fadukasi quietly is the number one run stopper, at least before going into last week's game. He was number one in the entire league. So there's a lot of talent on our defensive line. Quinnen Williams, guys like John Franklin Myers, and obviously I just mentioned Foley Fadukasi, Sheldon Rankins, those types of guys. So that is the strength of our team. And the whole concept is to kind of put pressure, hurry the quarterback. So the young cornerbacks, because we have two rookies starting at cornerback. Their backups are rookies. And then we have a second-year player in Bryce Hall, pretty much going through his first year as well. So there's a lot of inexperience back there. So the defensive line is sort of depended on to make some things happen so the defensive backs don't have to run around with receivers too often. But they've done a good job because of the defensive line. And I think that battle right there is one of the most interesting battles, our defensive line versus your offensive line. That's going to be where my focus is. It's hard to not watch the ball when you watch a game, but I like to focus on the trenches, and that's going to be really interesting to see, Quinnen Williams versus Nelson kind of a thing, and see how that goes. I don't know how well we'll do because I really respect the hell out of your offensive line, and but that's our strength. That's what I think we're going to be hoping can find its way home.
I will say that all three of us are of like mind. All three of us love trench play. Whether it's offensive line versus defensive line, it's one of our favorite things to watch. Loyalist.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that it's happening this week and not 3-4 weeks ago, because you guys would have been a lot healthier. We would have not been a lot healthier. That would have. So yeah, like I said, the timing I feel like is sort of balancing this out. I guess every young team, you've got these bumps but what would you say would be one of the areas that you think the Colts could exploit, against the Jets and stuff, and maybe turn this into a game of their favor?
Yeah, look, it's interesting because I think I think T.Y. Hilton is not playing, right? I'm
correct.
Sure. Correct. Love Michael Pittman. Love what you guys are able to do there. But if you guys can find a groove against our defensive backs, even though they've done very well, I think the defensive coordinator's done a good job with masking some of our deficiencies back there. But if you guys can get your passing game going, intermediate passing game, I'd say, and even deep at times, intermediate to deep passing game, if you guys can start to find a rhythm there, that might be a place where the Jets find it difficult to keep their feet. Again, I'm not bashing them or anything like that. They've done a very, very good job for what they are. But again, I think if teams can find the seams in our zone and stuff like that, I think once that starts to happen, it gets ugly in a hurry. And again, your running backs are exceptional. Your running game is exceptional. So even though we're a good running team, running defense, run defense, I think you guys have an opportunity to take advantage of that. And with the short passing game of the running backs, whether it's a screen, whether it's a little, running back in the flat after blocking or whatever it might be. I think a lot of that stuff, we've struggled with that. Some teams, that's all they did, like the Patriots, that's pretty much all they did to us in the first game. They just dinked and dunked, and we could not stop it. They were getting 10 yards a clip at worst, just 10 yards, 15 yards, 10 yards, 12 yards. That's what they were doing, and we couldn't figure out how to stop it. So I think that kind of balance that the Colts have and the ability to really force us to pay attention to certain things. If you guys can get us on our heels with that, I think our defense might have a hard time. It's honestly, I think we're going to need to play our best ball, because I think this one, you guys have a lot of talent, and you guys, this one scares me a little bit. You guys could end up running away with things if we get off kilter a little bit. I think that you guys can end up exploiting some of our deficiencies with the youth that we have on the team.
So, as many know, Robert Saleh is now the head coach of the Jets. Was the defensive coordinators for the Niners, and over on that team, that was a very aggressive front seven over on the Niners. I'm curious, does Saleh generally just send four with the Jets, or does he use a lot of exotic blitzes and things of that nature to get pressure on the quarterback?
Most of the time, it's like our base is just the four guys, and they do depend on that quite a bit. Interestingly, they have been caught doing stuff like this. When you talk about exotic blitzes, sending a linebacker or a defensive back and pulling a defensive end into coverage. We did it well in one game. They didn't get caught. And then in the Falcons game in London, we got caught hard. Literally 2 of their touchdowns were with our defensive ends covering the guy in the end zone. Like, you got a 300-pound dude running after Kyle Pitts in the end zone. And it was like, as soon as you see it, you're like, oh, he's done. There's no way. So we do some stuff like that. And we can get caught with our pants down at times. I think the last week, in this game, it's an anomaly, right? Like, we played so well in this game that it's hard to base anything on it. It's just like one of those games, we got beat 54-13 by the Patriots in Foxborough the week before. Then we come out 405 yards. The defense is doing, 4-down goal line stands and all this sort of stuff, sacks, picks, everything like that. But so it's hard for me anyway, it's hard to grab that and say, this is us. You know what I mean? I need more time. That said, I think that we have calmed those exotic blitzes down, or at least where you have guys dropping back into coverage and that sort of thing. We do a lot of delayed blitz. So like a CJ Mosley, the 4 guys will go. CJ Mosley's, watching the play. He's diagnosing. And then 2 seconds, a second and a half, he'll just run through the hole and crush the quarterback. And that's happened to our success a few times, man. It's like, this delayed blitz that they do seems to be pretty effective. Even in the running game, just kind of CJ Mosley or one of the other linebackers. Now it's Jared Davis, but Quincy Williams, they'll just sit there and diagnose the play, and then they just take off through the hole and to sacks and stuffs in the backfield with running backs and stuff. So our linebackers are good, but they only played one game together. So I think, Jared Davis and CJ Mosley that was our predicted starting guys. And Jared Davis just started his first game from having an injury in the preseason. So they looked pretty good, but my hope is that they can really gel as a team there, those guys, and really start to be more effective. But that's what I'll say. We do some stuff, but generally speaking, they want to see their 4-down linemen create pressure. And that gives them more ability to cover whatever's going on out there in the backfield.
Sounds very similar to how Matt Eberflus and Indianapolis Colts run their defense as well.
Yeah.
Loyalist, you got a final question for him?
I do, and I'm not trying to, beat this topic into the ground, but I know we opened up talking about Mike White and stuff. But I guess full disclosure, I didn't get to watch the game last week. After Sunday's Titans debacle, I was just like,
Yeah.
I need 24 hours of just no football. I was hurt.
Oh,
But
I
with
get
Mike,
it, man.
with Mike White, okay, you say he's good at the short and intermediate passes and stuff. Now, is that to say that he doesn't have the arm talent to get the ball down the field? And secondly, I guess what is his mobility level and stuff? You know, I mean, is he a Phillip Rivers, you know, or is he more of a, you know, Lamar Jackson, or where does he fall, you know, with his mobility?
Right. Well, number one, as far as his passing game, like his arm strength is very, very good, but his accuracy down there, and again, we've only seen it, you know, we have such a small sample size, so it's very difficult to really label him with anything. But there was a few opportunities deep. One in particular, Elijah Moore, our rookie wide receiver, was wide open behind the defense, and he overthrew him by 6-7 yards. It wasn't even close. So I think his accuracy from, you know, the deeper stuff is definitely in question. We didn't see much of it, and when we did, you know, what we did see, we didn't really see much success. So I think the arm strength is there, but again, we need to see him actually hit some of those before we can be confident that that's a legitimate part of our offense. And the second part of the question, well, I'm sorry, what was the second
mobility and just,
Oh,
you know, how is he with misdirection plays and stuff?
yeah. Well, I wouldn't call him a mobile quarterback, but he does. I mean, and it was so surprising to me and a lot of Jets fans. He does seem super cool back there. So when a guy is in his face, he just very nonchalantly will take a step back, take a step to the right or left. He's not a guy that's going to run for 30 yards or anything like that, I think, but he definitely has the ability to avoid pressure. He seems so calm and just collected. It's the best word I could find for how he looks. And that was so surprising. You know, you think a guy coming in, his first NFL start, a ravenous defense in the Bengals, you would think that you would see a lot of happy feet, a lot of, you know, being tentative. And there was none of that. He was super cool, like a cucumber. So I think while I wouldn't call him, you know, anything like a running quarterback, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, any of those guys, at the same time, I do think that he's mobile enough to just avoid pressure when it's one guy coming in. He does have that capability to kind of scoot out of the way, which is obviously of benefit.
All right, so just real quick on the deep shots, that I wouldn't give up on him on the deep shots right away. Being that he's still new with the team, hasn't really had reps with those starters too much. It takes time to get speed down and tendencies and things of that nature. We've seen it multiple times. I mean, the Indianapolis Colts have had 4 different starting quarterbacks the last 4 years, and generally it takes a few weeks for them to get that connection down with the receivers so they can hit those deep shots. So you may not have that opportunity to see that connection if, you know, Wilson comes back. But we'll see.
Right.
Well, we're at the end of the show, so it's time to make predictions. Yeah, it's that part really where I hate doing predictions, especially when I have a guest on that's representing another show, just like when I'm on the other show. But we have to represent each other, and I am going to go with Loyalist first because I'm going to put him on the spot and let him do his prediction first. Then I'll do mine, and I'll give you the last say in the situation. Loyalist?
All right, well, and this might catch a little heat, but there's 2 possible outcomes of this game the way I see it. Either the Colts come out, take last week, let that fire. I mean, we've got players that are motivated by these things a lot. You know, we got the Darius Leonards. I mean, he's always out scouring, looking for things just to irritate him. I'm pretty sure last Sunday's performance falls in that category. So I honestly feel like, okay, if the Colts come out firing like they did against Tennessee last week, and they continue that, I really do see that this could turn out to be sort of a walk away. We're here to make our point statement type of game. But I'll tell you right now, if the Colts go, especially being at home, and they start experiencing, more of the Mike White that they, was played in Cincinnati, and this thing's left close or whatever. Honestly, I give a big advantage to the Jets in that scenario, because now they're playing, they're free rolling. I mean, they're playing with house money, and quite honestly, the Colts fan base, we're starting to get that snake bit mentality. It's like, oh no, things start not panning out, and you got a 15-point lead at Baltimore, and you're still going, I feel like we might lose this one. You just sort of have that. What was that, Sam? You're starting to see ghosts and stuff. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah.
Yeah, GreenBean knows that saying, seeing ghosts, very, very well,
I
because
do.
it was used lot with Sam Darnold. And you can't, and frankly, I mean, with Adam Gase and the way he sees everything, includes ghosts.
Yeah, totally, he does.
But I would say, as far as my prediction, I'm leaning towards the Colts, just because, like I said, this team has really shown that they can bounce back. Even after that Baltimore Ravens game, we turned around and we came back and represented ourselves with a lot of grit and stuff. So I do see that this is going to turn into more of that 31-17 type of game versus the other option.
All right. So as I said last night on your show, GreenBean, I kind of agree with Loyalist on this situation, where every time that they have lost a really close game against a good opponent, they come back the next week aggressive and looking to really, make a statement game. And they're at home this week. I got a feeling that they're not going to be able to do to the Jets what they did to the Titans and hold you to 3 points, because I do believe that passing attack of the Jets, the way they're able to move the ball, Mike White, very, very accurate. It was like 75% completions or something like that.
Yeah.
That's a good situation there. But I do feel like the Colts will probably get a couple turnovers, and I got a feeling they're going to stonewall the Jets running game and make them one-dimensional, which will help in the long run. I've got a score somewhere around 35-24 in favor of the Indianapolis Colts, or maybe 33-31, somewhere around that, early 30s to early 20s. That's what I'm looking at.
Right.
And now it's your turn to boost up your team there.
Right. And look, and I totally just appreciate and respect the kind attempt at being a good boy and respectful and all that. But here's the truth. I think that what definitely is in your favor and not in ours, in addition to just you guys, I think, being ahead of us and trying to build a team, right? Like you guys have a lot of pieces and you're a good team. But I think that loss last week against the Ravens, man, that's the kind of game that you guys come back from, and it's like when you can't believe that you lost it. You know what I mean? And then you come back just furious. And I think if you guys won, we might have a better chance of kind of catching you in one of those trap games. I don't think that's going to happen. Now, in our favor, the Jets had just a whirlwind of positive energy this week. The entire team was infected with it. And that's new for us. It really is. The fact that it's a Thursday night game and not waiting all the way to Sunday, I think that is a benefit to us. We're still kind of in that bubble. And I think that if we can come out, and play well from the beginning, which has been a major issue for us. We're a second half team. Last week was the first time we scored a point in the first quarter all year. So it's really been bad. If we can come out and play 60 minutes of football, I give us a legitimate shot. And if that's the case, I'll say 24-17, 28-21. That was something like that, Jets. Realistically, I think and if we have struggles like we have, I think that it's probably going to be the other way, a 28-17 kind of thing for the Colts. For me, it all depends on how it starts.
Yes.
And you guys could know that now too. Like when you're watching the game, just know if we don't start well, it's slim to none that we're going to be able to kind of come back and win. It's possible, of course, but you know what I mean. So I think just to make a final prediction, because I am a Jets fan and because I believe in positive energy into the ether, I'm going to say Jets squeak it out 24-21.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you. Everyone watching this, you can check out where you can find him in the description of the video down below. Man, I hope for a really good game this Thursday, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope Jets fans enjoy it. I hope the Colts fans enjoy it. It is prime time. It is Thursday night football. These are games that, our teams as of late really haven't had a whole lot of. So,
Right.
It's nice to be out there. I'm sure other NFL fans of other NFL teams are like, are we seriously seeing a 2 and a 3 win team on Thursday night football in prime time? What's up with this? But just have a good game, and maybe we could get some good national coverage out of this. That would be fantastic. And until next time, I'm Lawrence Owen. That's Colts Loyalist. With us, a special guest was GreenBean. And until next time, have a good one.
Just because a player's not a household name doesn't mean we can't make him a household name.